Roadman, welcome back to the podcast. One of my favourite guests, it's Mr. Alex Dowsett. Today we dive into the aerodynamic hacks and tricks that Alex Dowsett used to help Mark Cavendish break the Tour de France stage winning record. We look for aero innovations within Astana and show you how you can use them to go a little bit faster. Welcome to the Roadman podcast, Mr. Alex Dowsett. Alex Dowsett, welcome back to the Roadman podcast.
Thanks for having me again.
Number 3, 4, it's our annual catch up anyway.
Yeah.
I have a few on repeat on the annual. It's you, Dylan Johnson, Alex Howes. There's a few I like to catch up with each year. Jay Boyne.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah. Good people.
Yeah, good lads. Good lads. You are obviously retired a couple of years now, and you mentioned something. It was just a word I jotted down as we were chatting off air. We were talking about no pins, skin suits, and the idea of those pockets. And we said it's so obvious in hindsight. And I jotted down that word obvious when we were saying it. And I was wondering, what's obvious in hindsight about your training that you wish you were doing when you were World Tour? Because you have been, I know you're in a bit of a lean period at the moment, but you have been mixing it up with running and other sports. Is there any lessons from that you wish you applied for when you were full time?
Probably mainly around nutrition, if I'm honest. And I know Simon Yates touched on it in an interview recently where they're just eating more. Eating more at the right times and less at the right times. So less about eating more about just eating at the right time.
Like the macro timing of it.
Yeah, just the amount of pre-breakfast riding I used to do, and it was always just the failure I used to feel like when coaches would be like, you need to go on like a low carb sort of 4-hour ride, and I just feel like death, and I might like bail on the ride at 3 hours feeling like a failure because my body wouldn't let me run on just fat and protein. There was very little I could do to turn that round. And you hear stories of other pros doing like intervals on just a black coffee for breakfast, and I was like, I can barely get out of bed without breakfast. And hindsight, knowing now I was feeling like a failure unnecessarily.
Because the tail end of your career was the nutritional pendulum swung towards Froome eating smoked salmon and scrambled eggs and avocados up on Mount Ada.
Froome telling us he was eating smoked salmon and avocados. Yeah.
You reckon it was the smoke and mirrors?
I think a little bit. Yeah. I think I got a feeling Team Sky Ineos knew that there was an element of everyone copying them. So they're like, well, if we just release some, this is what we're doing, but it isn't actually. Maybe we're leading everyone else down there.
Interesting. I must chat to David Dunn. He's the nutritionist in Ineos. I'm not sure how long David's been there, but he built the Hexus app. Have you used this yet? No. Hexus is the app. I think by the end of the year. About it, yeah, like half of the World Tour or something. I think are on it. Jumbo aren't on it. Red Bull aren't on it. Is Astana on it?
I don't know.
Yeah, so it basically plans out your nutrition for you, macro, gram by gram, and it plugs into your training peaks and figures out what session you're doing, what session you have planned, and what session you had done yesterday. And figures out your macros around that based on if you want to lose weight, maintain, or slightly gain weight.
Yeah.
Shocking amount of food you need to eat.
It's wild, isn't it? And that's
unbelievable.
Yeah. I know I say I don't know. It's like nutrition within Astana is not my area. I just know every single rider has their own set of scales at every meal. And I asked Mike Toynerson about them. I was just like a casual, like, Christ, this has changed for the better from when I was racing. And he was like, it's there to eat. It's just what's changed as well. It's not there to limit the amount you eat. It's there to make sure that we're eating enough.
What's the lesson in that for an amateur though?
For me, it's timing. It's just all about timing. To sit here and go, oh, everyone's just eating more. That isn't to say, to the amateur to go home and just like double your intake. It's timing around training. I worked on in the last couple of years, I would say I got the leanest and most powerful in my career, and that was all down to timing of nutrition.
Not restriction.
Not restriction, no. It was, and actually, with timing and quantity correct, I never had like hunger pangs. I never got in from a ride feeling like I needed to inhale the entire contents of the fridge.
Yeah.
Training was remarkably consistent. I didn't have bad days. I didn't have like every day was like a good day, like good enough. And everything was much more predictable. So it was, it just had more control.
The part that I found really counterintuitive about it is it's the Sunday ride for your amateur, because most amateurs get the bulk of their endurance done Saturday, Sunday. Monday's typically a rest day. So Sunday evening, you've just ridden long Saturday 4 or 5 hours, you've ridden long Sunday 4 or 5 hours. Saturday evening actually requires a bit of restriction because
Sunday
evening requires the bit of restriction because you're stopping and looking at your diet in like 24-hour cycles. You're looking at, okay, well, what's coming ahead tomorrow? And there's nothing coming ahead tomorrow, so you don't really need to fuel very much for nothing coming ahead tomorrow.
Yeah.
I think the club guys are quite likely to go out and bang a 16-inch pizza and go, oh, I kind of earned it over the weekend.
Yeah. And they're not, it's not going to do any harm, but if we're talking about absolute performance, because if they've done 5 or 6 hours and you're looking at 5,000 or 6,000 calorie like day, then that's still that's hard to get to. But yeah, I mean, I had a year of that where I used my MyFitnessPal to track, and I was taking everything on a 24-hour, like when I woke up to when I go to sleep. And what we found, and with tracking my weight as well, generally training was a 3-day block, 1-day rest, and my weight would go, you drop, like, I don't know, 0.3 or 0.4 of a kilo every day of the 3-day block. And then on the rest day, I'd gain a kilo. I knew if on the rest day that I had maintained the weight of the 3-day block, I was in trouble for the next training day. I had to have gained something because it's replenishing glycogen stores, it's water retention. So what I was doing was taking everything. I was doing exactly that. I'd have like Sunday, for example, Sunday would be like a big 5-hour day. And if Monday is a rest day, like Sunday, I would be trying to get my MyFitnessPal up to a like minus like 500 calorie deficit maximum, like no more.
Yeah.
So I'd be doing all my eating after the ride. And then I'd be like, right, Monday, that's an 1,800 calorie day. So it'd be mostly protein and fat. And then I'd just be flat as a pancake on Tuesday in terms of training because I haven't replenished any glycogen stores. Now, what I spoke to a nutritionist in Oregon who kind of just changed my thinking. Isn't this what all the pros are doing now? And it's that to start thinking just always 3 meals ahead of training. And there's possibly an easier way of doing it than a 24-hour cycle. I haven't used the Hexus app or I think Jumbo Visma have one as well. The Food
Athlete's
Doctor.
Kitchen or something like that.
Something like that, yeah. I used to just think 3 meals ahead. So if I'm training, like say Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Saturday's a big day, Sunday's a big day, Monday's a rest day. Like Saturday, do my training ride. We're going to have high carb, have my recovery drink, high carb lunch, high carb dinner, high carb breakfast, big training day Sunday, recovery drink, and then you're on the low carb. That then it's kind of, you said your day finishes at your recovery drink, and then your next day starts at your meal after your recovery drink after training. So
it actually becomes quite intuitive when you think about it the way you explained it there. You're thinking that 2-3 meals ahead cycle.
Yeah.
But where I struggle with it a little bit is for somebody, the club rider who's trying to cut weight, someone who's trying to lose 5-6 kilograms, it can feel quite counterintuitive to be tucking into bigger feeds than normal while trying to lose weight.
Yeah, I mean, I guess there's if you're fueled right, because I mean, people love to eat, people love food. It's a big topic of conversation for probably 80-90% of the population in economically developed countries is trying to eat less so that they can lose weight, but a love of food.
Yeah.
If you are well fueled, you will be able to exercise harder. You will burn more. So you kind of enable. You will enable more food. If that makes sense. But then when it's time to restrict, you really restrict. And I think that's it. It's just more polarized, isn't it? It's like when it's time to eat, you bloody well eat. And when it's time to restrict, you can restrict without fear.
Do you think those GLP-1 antagonists, your Ozempic, are going to creep into cycling, or are we past that era of temptation for that stuff around food?
I think I'd like to think we're past that. I don't see I think the knowledge is so. The knowledge of how to do it whilst training efficiently is so good that if riders and I don't know if riders are needing to do that, then I don't know if pro cycling's the place for them. If we're talking
good for
about
Jan Ullrich though. Jan Ullrich could have won 6-7 tours with Ozempic.
just to add to the cabinet of whatever it was going on.
Yeah, untested how the Ozempic could go into the mix.
Yeah.
Still looked great though.
He did.
Yeah.
Oh,
you know when he gets in shape, those pictures at 98 tour, him and Pantani climbing. Pantani's in the Uno X kit. They're just like iconic images of Ulrich. They don't make humans like that anymore.
No. It's that was an era, wasn't it?
Peak masculinity. So you do have as you're self-confessed, not an expert on nutrition. You are an expert on aerodynamics, and you are in Astana this year. How did that transition happen from? Could we call you internet influencer? Pro cyclist, gravel racer, internet influencer.
Internet influencer. I guess so. I guess on the surface of it was just. I had a phone call. I had a WhatsApp from Cavendish, 6 weeks out from the Tour de France. Just a casual, hey mate, do you know anything about tyre aerodynamics? And I called him. I said, I said, your message concerns me. I was like, yes, I do. Do I know anything? I know what's fast and I know what isn't fast through a massive amount of testing. So I do, but I'm like, 3 things concern me. 1, is 6 weeks out to the Tour de France and you're thinking about this. 2, this hasn't been done in the winter. And 3, you're calling me? Like, from
you have mates?
Yeah. But like, I have nothing to do with his racing. I have nothing to do with Astana at this time. And I was like, shouldn't there be someone who has done this quite a long time ago? And Cav was like, yeah, but you know how it is in like an awful lot of World Tour teams. You kind of have to do this stuff yourself. So I said, okay, well, I said, yes, I can and help. What else is going on? What else is missing? I just asked a few questions, found a few holes, and he was like, I'm off to a wind tunnel next week. And it was, interestingly, only the second time he'd ever been in a wind tunnel in his whole career, which I found surprising. And so I went along, found some holes that we could fill, just to get some sort of get some advantages for him. Things like the Aero bottles really worked on the Willia.
What sort of savings does an Aero bottle?
That was about 2.5% saving on CDA.
Okay, that's pretty big.
Yeah. You just looked at it. It's just kind of like, well, it looks like it's going to work, and it works.
So is the consideration for Cav when you're talking about, or maybe the answer is both, is the consideration CDA at 75k an hour?
We were doing
speed or cruising speed.
We're doing high speed, low yaw. So yes, it was. I think it wasn't 75. I think we were at 60 or 65. So yeah, and then we played a bit with helmets. I actually it was quite entertaining. Put a we took a number of helmets with us. Some worked, some didn't. The Trex Ballista helmet worked very well on him, but the gyro Arrowhead that Jumbo Visma are now using in racing worked the best. And I was like, that's a you decision. That's a you decision. If Mark Cavendish, is going to take an aero helmet into a road race,
there's your legacy gone.
Yeah. But I think in the end, Lamar took note of the flaws and added like a little fin thing to the back of their helmet, which you've seen our Astana riders at the moment. It's gold. It's gold. So yeah, we found that was another 2.5% that gyro Arrowhead.
Considering how close that stage win was, or any sprint stage win normally is.
Yeah, he chucked everything and the kitchen sink at it. And it was so, yeah, back to your original question, helped a lot. And then Cav said to the team, you should employ him. And the team employed me.
So he initially texted you about tyres. I remember chatting to Matt Bottrell about this, and I'm so out of the loop on this stuff. Bottrell was telling me it's actually more about the tyre, wheel, bike system now as a whole, rather than one in isolation. We can't just say they are the fastest tyres, full stop. It ends up being different based on those other variables. Was that your experience with it?
Look, well, it's funny, in the end, I think after all that, we didn't really look at tyres. Because there was larger gains to find elsewhere, we felt. But Matt's bang on. And tyres is something, I think, there's been... No, Matt is very right. Is tyre size, rim width, internal rim width. It's a bit of a minefield, so you kind of have to make it specific for your setup. And then rider preference, race environment, all front and back as well, all comes into the equation.
But that's quite interesting as a consumer, because if you go on to wherever you buy your tires, Sigma Sports or whatever, like there's no data about this. There's no this tire will work best with this wheel for this type of rider on this bike. You're just really presented with the tire options, and then you come home with the tires, and then you listen to a podcast like this, and you're like, oh, balls.
Yeah. Yeah. I think the reason for that is I think tires is the next frontier. For quite big steps forward. I found some stuff this winter. I was like, that's alarming. So yeah, I do think tyres is next, and I think the reason there is no rock solid information on it is because it's because I don't think anyone's got rock solid information. I think certain people have information that is specific to them and their wheel set and their roads and their racing discipline. But you take a crit, it's just a tyre for a criterion. Well, is it an American crit or a British crit? Because in American crit, you don't really go around corners so much. In a British crit, you're heavy on the brakes and you're really testing the limits of the tyre on sometimes quite alarmingly rough surfaces, and that's quite a different requirement. So
I got a time trial bike in the winter. Haven't started playing around with it yet. I was meant to get over to Matt and do a fit on it. I haven't. I'm running compact wheels on a BMC. How do I start to create a bro science home experiment to work out the best tires for this bike fit? Bingham was saying to me that ChatGPT is becoming like an invaluable resource for the bro science enthusiast at home, because you can start to get data and plug it into ChatGPT, and that can start doing a lot of the calculations that you really need to be good at maths to do before.
Yeah. Oh, wow. The compact disc.
Yeah.
They're quite narrow, aren't they?
I don't have a frame of reference, you see. Like to look at it, it looks quite narrow, but it looks a lot more narrow than the zip disc. It's just the only other one I've put my hands on in the last 12 months. But I don't know is the honest answer to that. See, I'd go
test. Silverstone's pedaling efficiency rig is where I'd go to find your answers on tyres, because it just takes the guesswork out of it.
You think it's possible with a body rocket, gimbly home testing, or is there too many unknowns?
Not with... the body rocket is everything above the bike. Eric there says you could do it, but it requires some backwards maths. You wouldn't be looking, and then you would have to be very stable. I think for that specifically, I would use the pedaling efficiency rig in Silverstone. I try not to do it outside.
Yeah.
Just mainly because you get very black and white answers there. Because you put in, tyre size, tubeless, inner tube, liner, no liner.
We have 3 long-form podcasts every week. Some of them are 90 minutes or 2 hours long, and I realise you're busy. Sometimes it's hard to cut through the noise and figure out the signal, figure out what the important parts are of these conversations. So I've taken your feedback, and once a week I'm delivering to your inbox a newsletter called The Saturday Spin. It's a 4-minute read or less, and it's going to break down the very best thing I've learned on the podcast this week. So it's insights from the biggest names in the world tour, physiologists, sports psychologists and coaches. It's completely free to sign up to the newsletter. All you have to do is go to roadmancycling.com, stick in your email address, and once a week on a Saturday morning, I will deliver the Saturday Spin newsletter direct to your inbox. The link is down below. Go sign up. I think there's an interesting gap for someone to create a software tech product to walk you through and onboard you into optimizing your TT bike with some basic tests.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
There's a huge knowledge gap. Like you talked about John Archibald giving you a spanking in the 50 last year. Like,
thanks for bringing that
up. John will be delighted. But there's a talent gulf, there's a genetics gulf, there's a training gulf, but possibly even a bigger gulf at the front end of them races is an aerodynamics gulf. There's a few people really have dialed in to unlocking this aerodynamics puzzle, and the vast majority of the trailers behind haven't unlocked that. And it's like, how do you bridge that gap? Is there secretly a dude in fifth who's all the horsepower in the world?
There is. It's hard, isn't it? Because everyone's so different. Everyone is so different that it is very difficult to create something that kind of looks after almost all, takes 90% of riders and goes, you can, if you do this, this, and this, you'll be like 90% there. That's really tough to do, and I'll be honest, I'm struggling with the question because there's never I've always taken people on a case by case basis when I'm trying to help them go faster. Yeah. It's software to. You could take a standard deviation or an average of people's angles, like a retool bike fit would do for a road rider, and go, we're roughly here for handlebar height, like shoulder height, and I think also maybe torso height in relation to shoulders as well, because there's a lot of that, whether you're pushing imagine you're doing a plank on the floor, and it's whether you're relaxing your spine to drop between your shoulder blades or you're pushing your whole body up. There's only, and I think most people try and drop the spine, because then that tucks the head more, or enables you to tuck the head more in between the shoulders. There's only one rider that really made the push-up position work, and that was Tony Martin. But he was
the Panzer.
Yeah, but he was a law unto himself, an enigma, an anomaly. There we go. Tony was an anomaly in the time trial world. But I was developing something. Yeah, I positionally, I think a refined time trial specific retool could get there.
And is this a problem on a smaller scale you're trying to solve with Astana? Because obviously you alluded to working one-on-one with Cavendish. With the size of a World Tour squad now, do you have time to work one-on-one with every rider?
We work, yes we do. Some big winter training camps to rattle through. We managed to aero test on the track 60% of the team.
That's
and it's actually my first time doing track testing from the other side of the fence, especially with non-track riders. I've done track aero testing, but
because they can't hold the black line.
Yeah, one rider, I won't name names, one rider like almost crashed.
Name him.
No. And he was just like, I've never ridden the track, I don't know how to ride the track, and actually I don't want to do this. I was like, okay, that's fine. I don't want to be responsible for a collarbone break under my watch anyway. So, and actually, we're going to get nothing from this because you're going to be terrified of just riding the track over like getting like positionally dialed in. But you could see there was one rider, Ramele, who was a track rider, and it's like you're looking at his numbers, and like Jesus Christ, like he's just clocking same. Every like CDA is not moving around at all. It's just remarkable. I'm like, what's going on here? It's like, oh, he's a pursuiter. It's like, ah. Yeah. So then, the track testing. I think it's good because I think riders are under the same stresses they're under when they're, or not exactly the same because it's 8 laps versus 18k or whatever, but they're having to put power down. I think the downside to it is fatigue and an unfamiliarity of the track and a lack of yaw angles as well. But there's something to be said for it. I think my preference would still be heading to the wind tunnel though.
Well, it's like the Pareto principle, isn't it? It starts to get them 80% of the way there for 20% of the effort. You're knocking off some of the really big gains. Yeah.
And I think with Astana, you look at our roster, we do not have, I hope no one would mind, we do not have a specialist. Aaron Gate would be the closest to our time trial specialist. But even and Mike Toynerson and Fedorov are time trialists, but we do not have a, Ganna's the obvious one, like say even a Mikkel Bjerg.
Yeah.
So we have GC riders who have to be good at time trialing, and that's so. It's kind of the efforts. It's where do you focus your efforts, and the time trial has been. We've made enough of an effort, let's say.
In some ways, does not having the star make it easier to assemble a TTT team?
Yeah. No, I think a TTT. I've danced around that answer, haven't I? I don't think it makes a difference. I think having a star just gives you someone to lean on, but ultimately, I think having a team that is a team is the important thing for a team time trial.
Yeah,
trying to remove. Because we had the Paris team time trial recently, and the one thing I went out, I don't know, I'd say I DS'd for the day, and the one thing I said was like when I was at Movistar, alarmingly good at team time trialing for very much a lack of work in the team time trial, and I said for me, I put that down to like a fundamental lack of ego within the team. Like everyone just left their ego on the bus. Went and did like what they could do and not a single second more. And I put that down to two things. One is like the whole mentality within Movistar was brilliant and really conducive to an ego-free team time trial. And the second thing is that obviously there was no pacing strategies, no power predictions, no how long you spend on the front. It was even like when it came down to order, there wasn't much consideration for order either. So, and I'm not saying that was the best way of doing it. I was saying there's something in it. Just that, like, you get off the front before you start slowing the train down.
Yeah.
Like that's pretty
You
much
need a
the long and
smart
short.
group of riders to pull that off, though.
Yes. Yeah, and they were. They knew their ability, and they were. And we had a smart group of riders in Paris-Nice. So I think a couple of leaders. What happens with the team time trial as well, interestingly, is the riders take control of it. Like the more you do, like we do, the more training you do, the more the riders start talking. It's like, well, we need to do this, we need to do that, and the riders take ownership of the race because they've ridden the course. They know the course better than we do from VeloViewer and from all the tools that we have at our disposal. But they're the ones that have ridden it at speed and at power. So yeah, there's a real, and then the DS, I think depending on the DS's experience of team time trialing is how much input like they have. When I was a pro, we had one of our like people in my job for a team time trial at Copy Bartley was like, oh, this is the order I was thinking. And we all just went, nah, absolutely not. Like, park that. Don't you worry yourself about it. We'll sort this out. And we DS'd it ourselves and won it. So it's very much, and I think I have good experience in the team time trial, so I can be a lot of use. But I was very much, when you've got the likes of Case Bowl and Mike Toynerson in the group, who are natural born leaders, not afraid to say to someone, you need to do this better or you're doing this wrong. This is how you improve, and saying it in the right way, despite them being Dutch and the Dutch like abrupt bluntness. Everyone listens. So,
and
yeah.
You talked about software, VeloViewer. Some of the stuff you would use for an individual time trial, you might go and use My Best Bike Split. Is there a similar type software you can use, or can you adapt My Best Bike Split for team time trials?
I just adapted Best Bike Split to get a rough idea of how long the race was going to take. Basically, it's
you're not mapping out turns and power targets based off that.
Not really, no. I mapped out just off it. I mapped out a rough idea for the first 6 kilometers, because it was on the motor racing circuit, and mainly to focus around riders trying to make changes happen on turns to make changes more efficient.
Okay.
And so that riders aren't changing like just before corners and getting in the way of the entire team in a corner and making life more difficult for themselves. But I think if there hadn't have been a motor racing circuit, I'm not sure I would have even done that. I think unless it's why didn't we do it? I think it was a lack's negative. I think it was I didn't know the riders well enough. I don't know that we'd done most of their aero testing on the track, so we had a track CDA, but I'm always quite dubious about trusting. Whenever I go aero testing, I don't care much for the actual number that gets shown up. I only really care for an improvement on the day.
Yeah.
Because if you take the same position to a body rocket aero test outside, a wind tunnel test at Silverstone, a wind tunnel test in Milan, and then a track aero test, you are going to get 4 different CDAs, and I could not tell you which one is correct, and I do not care either. All I care about is on that particular session is we try and improve it.
I guess it becomes more interesting if you have the same group of riders now going to do a Giro d'Italia TT, or the base of the same group of riders. You could start to make deductions from the previous length of turns, power.
You can, you can, and they know as well. And I think the riders, it is experience as well. The riders, like for Nico Vinokourov, it's his first ever team time trial, and he was terrified. You could tell he was like just asking the most amount of questions, and he's like, "What if I do? How do I do this?" I'm like, it's very difficult to say, like, mate, you just need to stop thinking about it, but do it right.
Yeah.
But just stop thinking. You're thinking too much. Don't do that. Just feel it.
What was with the different coloured overshoes?
Yeah. So that was that went better than I expected. That was it was always something I've been sat on it for a while. It's just I had the opportunity to implement it. So his overshoes, actually the gloves were my focus, not the overshoes. But the overshoes worked well as well. When you're on the front, you've done a huge effort. World Tour guys, generally it's sort of 30 to 45 seconds, 500-ish watts. Yeah, 7. So with the numbers thing, a coach once in a team time trial was like, you need to do 7 watts per kilo on the front. And as again, going back to that relationship between rider and coach, we were like, don't tell the riders that, because then they'll focus on it. Like ultimately, if the riders keep the speed, keep the momentum, which is all it boils down to, and you look at the data afterwards, it'll probably be around 7 watts per kilo, give or take. But don't try and ask the riders to sit on that, because they'll I think power then starts fluctuating.
I suppose that feels like it could be very surgy then, because you have, to use the outlier example, if Ghana coming through as an 83 kilogram rider at 7 watts per kilo on a flat road, it's going to be very different than your climber coming through at 7 watts a kilo.
Exactly, and also because then you're using a watts per kilo. Your watts per kilo. A watts per kilo has a small amount of correlation with aero for, I think, people who are not specialists, because it's a general size. Like if you are bigger, then you'll have a worse aero than someone that is smaller, on a real fundamental level. So there is a small amount of correlation. And if you look at team time trial numbers at the end, generally, 7 watts per kilo on the front back then was roughly what it took. But I think with pacing strategies, if you say please hold X rider 473 watts on the front, then the rider starts dancing around that. It's like 460, a bit more, 480, a bit less, 460, a bit more, 480, a bit less. And all of that's doing is tanking the momentum and sending waves down the team time trial line that are not helpful. But the different coloured gloves and overshoes, I sat down years ago with Lewis Hamilton's engineer, Bono, who he was just chatting about the drivers don't look at the lights when they go out. They have them in the periphery, because you react to stuff in your periphery faster than you react to it if you're looking at it. So it's kind of like, okay, there's one thing. When you're coming back, you're on the front, you're doing big power, you've done a big effort, you swing off, and then certainly for me, the most terrifying part of the team time trial was getting back onto the back.
Yeah, it's hard as effort.
Oh, you missed that, you're in a real trouble. So that has to be clinical, it has to be perfect. And there's a lot going on. Lines, there's always movement in the line. And you've got to come off the power and get back on it again and time all that correctly. So you're looking for your guy, and everyone kind of looks the same.
That's a great idea.
Yeah,
I had the penny drop there.
Yeah, and everyone and yes, we can all tell who's who, but there's also, if you've got to have a big proper look, obviously there's an aero loss there. The first thing you see are the rider's gloves. So if you're in your periphery, you're not waiting for a set of blue Astana gloves. You're waiting for bright pink. You're going to see that quicker, and it's bang, get in.
Because you almost need to be moving in for someone that hasn't ridden it. You're not waiting for the entire train to go past and then moving in. You're almost slightly moving in all the time. It's like, if you execute it perfect, it's like your front wheel and their back wheel are so close to touching as you just peel in.
It's like the old team pursuit back in the day. They're like, don't aim for their back wheel, aim for their bottom bracket, and you will hit there. You'll land on their wheel. And that takes some nerves to do that for the first time. But they're right, and you're 100% right. You're not aiming, you're aiming to get there at the right time. So you're just getting it, and then it's not even. I think what the rider said, you're not even aiming for your gloves. It's like, well, I'm going to see orange gloves, green gloves, pink gloves, and then it's me.
Yeah.
So that was the first thing. The second thing I then actually asked for just different coloured overshoes, only for Tejada and Champassan, our 2 GC guys. But you're working with an Italian kit manufacturer, so things get lost in translation. But it just made everyone different colour gloves. I didn't want to do that because of the UCI. I was worried if we make a big show of it, then that's something the UCI. If everyone's got different colour gloves, I imagine the UCI would have been like, oh, weird, okay. But if you don't know different colour gloves, different colour overshoes, and it looks like a big thing, catching a chance, and there's a chance they will say no. But everyone had different colour overshoes. The riders were like, we want to wear the overshoes as well. Because I think that whole peripheral vision, something brightly, going back to when I was a child, time trialling on the road, and my parents being a bit worried. I think they got a piece of advice just to get me bright yellow overshoes. Because for car drivers, seeing a light is one thing, seeing something brightly coloured is another thing. Seeing something brightly coloured that's moving, that catches your attention quite a bit. So I was like, okay, well, yeah, this works as well. And the riders were like, no, we want to use these. So they had that. So it was that. The third thing from the team car behind, it's so easy to see who is who. And we used we made sure that we used the gloves and the overshoes in training so that every member of staff knew who was who.
Yeah.
And it's amazing how when all the gloves and overshoes turned up, Nico and Tejada were both in orange, slightly different shades of orange, like gloves. And I was like, oh, that could have been done better. You know, the colour spectrum's vast. We didn't need
to start going to burnt orange
and fluoro orange. But you still, by the time the race came round, it's like you knew who was who exactly. It didn't really matter. So from the team car behind, we had one rider like missed a turn, and it was like I was on the radio, and it was so easy for me to then go, okay, like this rider's sitting on case. You're now looking for Tejada's wheel. Tejada is in burnt orange.
Yeah.
And that made that a lot easier rather than just trying to work out quickly whose wheel is he on quickly now. It made those decisions faster as well.
Because that can be super messy in the heat of battle. It sounds obvious for someone listening, but if you're 2 beats below max heart rate, trying to figure out whose wheel you're now on with one person sitting on, did he just skip one turn or is he sitting on totally? And it's like to have that conciseness and clarity of communication is really important.
Yes, and that worked for that. So it worked. I mean, yeah, we got 13th, which I think there was. I said in my Instagram post internally that was a positive result. So everyone was happy. It kept our GC boys in the GC battle. So it was. Yeah, it was positive, and the bit that I didn't get afterwards, like the buzz about the gloves and the overshoes, it was like the team were like, "Oh, we're getting so much press from this." It's like there's 2 teams being talked about with the team time trial: Jumbo Visma because they won it, and us.
Before we finish up, I asked some of our email list some questions to ask you because you were coming on, and they have some. Not really odd ones, but standard enough ones. Pretty interesting to get your take on it. What's the worst cycling purchase you ever made? Hey everybody, let's take a quick break to talk about the bike I'll be riding this season, Reap. I've been lucky enough to ride all the top brands in the world over the past few years, but these Reap bikes, they're not the same, and I'll tell you why. Reap is the first company I've seen that isn't chasing sales targets and the mass market. They're chasing something very rare: perfection. Every bike they make, it's crafted in the UK factory, and it's not about slapping a Made in Britain label on a bike from a Chinese factory. It's about control. From the first sketch to the final build, they're hands-on, ensuring that every detail is dialed in. That's very rare in an outsourced world of mass production. What sets them apart is innovation. While others pump out the same old designs, Reap's pushing boundaries. They're not following trends, they're setting trends. Think precision and performance, like an F1 car for the road. Absolutely no compromises. And it shows, and you can feel it when you ride the bikes. These bikes are built for riders who demand the best, whether they're chasing podiums or just want a machine that feels like an extension of your body, a piece of art. It's not hype, it's substance. Ride a Reap for yourself and you're riding something crafted with intent. So if you're serious about cycling, check them out. It's reapbikes.com. I absolutely love my one and I couldn't recommend it highly enough. Back to the show.
Worst cycling purchase. Probably I've got a BT track bike now, but when I was a kid, I bought a set of BT. I sent them back off Stuart Dangerfield. BT handlebars that I really wanted to work on my time trial bike, but they didn't. They made my position a lot higher, but they were a thing of beauty. So not those.
I'm gonna throw mine out there when you were thinking. Compact group set. It just doesn't work.
I probably it's like one of those things you know. I guess it's based on what you know now. I'd say maybe ketones before I understood them.
Yeah, they work for almost no one. I've had physiologists on the podcast talking about how basically there's nobody should be using those. There's never been good peer-reviewed data on them at all. And I fell into that trap as well. We had them as an early sponsor on the podcast. And I was like, maybe they're doing something, but like it's just there's no good data on it. It's like, how do you know? It just becomes placebo.
Yeah, probably that. I'd say I never actually. I'm custom handlebars. I am so on the fence with custom handlebars. Because for two reasons. I think the aftermarket options now are so bloody good.
Yeah. And
just the limiter on custom handlebars for any positional changes, positional development. I did buy a set of custom handlebars in my career, but they were custom for Matthias Brandley. It was on the Factor Hanzo, and actually I can get them. I'll show you. Yeah, these. The Factor was not a simple.
Oh, they're nice.
They're beautiful. The Factor wasn't a simple bike to put handlebars on in its infancy, and yeah, Matthias Brandley had these made, and he's like, the guy that makes them, he'll make a set for you as well. And I got sent a set of instruction or a set like a list of like dimensions and everything that I'd want my hands in, and I was like, I don't know. Like, without going and spending 3 or 4 hours in a wind tunnel, like, I don't know. And I put my arms in Brandley's. I was like, these are nice. Make me them. So, yeah, that's yeah. So I mean, custom handlebars. If you have spent 10 to 15 hours testing, and you like have made a position work, then and only then get the custom handlebars. But even then, make sure that they're symmetrical. I know
you're killing me here because I have my TT bike. It's Ben O'Connor's old TT bike, so I have his 3D printed aero bars on it. And my mate who's an aerodynamicist with Fusion, he's just like there's almost no chance they're going to work for you. There's just no adaptability whatsoever in them. They look so cool, and it's like, I really want to make these work, but I can hardly get into the position on them.
Yeah, I mean,
it's so narrow.
It's just that the options are so good now. Like Aero Coach has every kind of hand position you can I've been so impressed with the Vision option we have with Astana.
Vision make great kit.
Yeah, like the adjustability of them and the comfort. I mean, I think they're based on Wout van Aert's custom handlebars, and like unsurprisingly, they're comfortable because they're Wout van Aert's custom handlebars. And that's enough. You get on a time trialist's bike, with the exception of the anomaly that is Tony Martin, you find that it's much comfier than you're expecting it to be. Like I thought my TT bike was comfortable. After the National 25 in 2020, I got on Dan Bigham's TT bike. I was like, bloody hell, this is more comfortable.
What's the X-Lab bikes like?
They're fine. They're good.
Because there's a lot of... I don't know many of the Astana lads personally, but I know some of the Decathlon lads pretty well. And I know when they heard they were getting Van Rysels, they was like, oh, come on, are you kidding me? And then they were actually quite happy with the bike in the end. I'm sure there's a similar sentiment when people heard we're going from Willier to X-Lab.
The riders were... Yeah, I thought I was more worried about the rider perception than I needed to be. The riders were far more open-minded about it than I really thought they were going to be. And hats off to them for that. The road bike is very good. The TT bike, I think as a starting point, we've been very lucky with how good it is. And one of my first jobs within the team was to stick everything in a tunnel and test everything and make sure that it stacks up. And the TT bike was quicker with and without a rider than the Willier's bike, not the Willier that Kung's riding, or that now FDJ are riding, which Astana, I don't think Astana ever had the option to have because it was a joint venture between FDJ and Willier. But it's quicker than Willier's previous time trial bike, quite significantly actually. And and the road bike was, I didn't test it against a Willier. The road bike was in the very correct ballpark as well. So
that's good.
And it's interesting. It's like this is a line I've been wanting to use for a while. Like with the teams, because obviously the team's doing it like very well this year. And we've made quite a few changes. Obviously the bikes, tires as well. Which was a me thing. I'd say everyone has moved up like 30 or 40 positions in racing. Just where they finish in the race, everyone's moved up. And it's kind of like when there's a step change difference in the way everyone's performing, or when all the riders are performing, so it's actually not about the riders, it's about everything else.
Yeah.
Riders probably won't be too happy about me saying that, but it's like I wasn't in the team last year. But I know from riders that were saying there has been a step change difference in the team this year, and the results are showing for it. You know, we're second in the team rankings at the moment, which, given the relegation battle that the team's got on, is exactly where we need to be and exactly what we need to be doing. So it's it's pretty cool.
Two more rapid fire ones before we finish up. Favorite cycling holiday destination?
Probably Lanzarote. Lanzarote in the
Very
winter.
Very windy in Lanzarote.
Yeah, I like that. I like that. But in the winter especially, I never quite understood. I understand why teams go to Calpe because of you can drive everything there, and the Canary Islands you'd have to fly everything there.
Yeah.
But for solo winter training, I've never understood the fascination with Calpe and Mallorca in the winter when you can go an hour and a half longer on a plane and have guaranteed shorts in the Jersey weather. Yeah,
it's a good point. And last one, now that you're back mixing it with regular Joes and Janes and the group spins and club rides and local tens, what's the biggest mistake you've seen amateurs making?
Rapid fire question. It's not a rapid fire answer, is it?
My one's probably I was on a group ride, terrifying, not with my group, and I seen a lad descending with the wrong crank down going around corners.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's
a good one. Nearly set me on fire, sparking through the corners.
Wow. Right, okay, yeah. I try training efficiently.
Just too much going riding with the lads, same speed all the
Yeah,
time.
yeah, same speed all the time. Sometimes just riding hard all the time because you're time crunched. So you want to maximize the time that you have. So you've got an hour. Like, well, I'm just going to make it a really bloody hard hour.
Top of zone 3.
Yeah, and perhaps like all the indoor training platforms, Zwift and whatnot, are the best thing ever. Like, don't get me wrong, but I know, yeah, people just racing on Zwift all the time because it's fun, and I get that, but not doing the efficient training that's going to make them better.
And you know what, Zwift as well, because there's, Zwift, Rouvy, all the platforms, like, they are amazing, but there has to be a Netflix effect because they're businesses. So they have to retain customers. You see this a little bit in coaching, where if you're coaching, if a coach's primary concern is client retention and having low churn, you have to create these sessions that are kind of nonsense. It's like a load of cadence changes, a load of 3 minutes at this, 2 minutes at this. Whereas I remember Michael Barry coaching me, and it'd be just like 5 hours, look over hedges. I'd be like, you never log on to Zwift and it's like 3 hours zone 1. It's like,
yeah.
But,
yeah, I hear you.
But,
yeah.
but you chat to the physiologists, you chat to Stephen Seiler, Dan Lorang, any of these guys, and they just prioritize so much zone 1, zone 2 riding.
Yeah. I mean, that's athlete. I think that's client athlete dependent. How much time they've got.
Yeah.
Just what motivates them. I mean, coaching. I think coaching is quite an easy job, but it's the people skills it's knowing what gets the most out of the person you're working with, how to, and sometimes, like you say, nonsense maybe isn't the word I'd use for it. It's more like what's going to give them motivation to do it, and it might scientifically it might not be the best thing, but from as a young lad I coached who he was doing sports science at university, so he probably knew more than I did about that aspect, but struggling with motivation, and I set him like a sort of load of zone 3 stuff to do instead of VO2 max stuff. He was like, this doesn't make sense. I was like, all right, we'll set you something that makes scientific sense. And he got to the end of the week, he hadn't done any of it because motivation was low. And I was like, well, maybe something that was a little bit easier on the head would have been the better thing to do this week, because then you'd have done something.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that's
a great lesson. It's all or something rather than all or nothing.
Yeah, it's better to do something, isn't it?
And the very last one, are we going to see you back on YouTube?
I do need to. Being perfectly frank, I'm barely riding the bike at all at the moment, and I'd love to tell you it's because I'm very busy. I am busy. I've got 2 very young children, and an exercise at the moment seems almost exercise as time consuming as cycling is. Like, don't get me wrong, I can go out for a run, smash the crap out of myself in half an hour. Whereas bike riding, unless you've done it, for me, an hour still feels like it's not really training.
Yeah.
Even though like an hour now it does feel a bit longer. But it's everything around it, getting ready, the garage, the bike. And when Chanel and I are both joint parenting, seems like quite a selfish way of exercising when I could run. I swim twice a week at the local swimming club, which is like at night, so everyone's gone to bed in the house and I go swimming. So from a YouTube standpoint, there's not much to talk about with cycling. And I think that the job with Astana, and I wouldn't, it seems deeply unprofessional to be going to Paris-Nice and doing everything that I have to do with the team time trial, and then putting a camera in front of the rider's face and going, "Hey, how do you feel about this team time trial?" It's like that, and that's not my job in Astana. And Astana know about my YouTube channel, and I think down the line there'll probably be some sort of working together, perhaps. But I think we have a hell of a job this year with the relegation, and that is our sole focus. So yeah, we will see YouTube again. It's not. I just don't know what to.
Hiatus.
Yeah, I don't know what to put up at the moment, and I don't want to put up shit for the sake of putting up shit. Yeah,
that's a wrap. Alex Dowsett, our annual catch up.
Thank you.
See you in 2026.
See you next year.
Thanks for watching, Roadman. Take 1 second, click up here to subscribe to the channel, and click down here where there's another video I know you'll love. See you next day.